this is also the energy of the divine feminine. We still have a lot of feminine energy going on right now. So there's some kind of activation to the feminine energy at this time that's um, putting women back into alignment with our natural energy, our natural look, our natural feel, our natural patterns, like sleep patterns, daily patterns, relationship patterns, partnership patterns. When I was doing the research on this is it really brought me back to when I was on my journey of waking up to the truth of the lies of our culture. I used to listen to this radio station who had, very intelligent, leaders within our society, within our culture, to talk to us about, some of the truths to the lies. And she had somebody come on. It was a comedian. His name was Aquarius, and he talked about how when he grew up in the 70s, and he said, he never knew what it was like to grow up without a a male figure on every corner that he can go and look up to. He didn't have this culture that we see today. He grew up with the Black Panther, um, and just, um, depictions, positive depictions of himself, right? Where we kind of don't have that anymore. And it kind of actually, when he spoke of that, um, I'd advise everybody to go back and watch a show called Aquarius, um, who was played by Scully, or was it Mulder? Whichever one was the guy from what was that alien show? I don't remember, but it all matches up, you know. But anyways, he did this show called Aquarius, and it was about the 70s with the Black Panther. It showed the Black Panther. It showed the Black family, and of course they only had that show on for one season, and it never came back on. I can only imagine why. But when he spoke about that, it kind of reminded me of that show, right? But he also talked about how the women's fight, right, wasn't our fight. Like, it wasn't an issue that we had in our culture and our communities amongst ourselves as people. But we kind of got brought into it by way of so when men were sent to go to war back in, I think it was 1972, for World War II, women were given DTA, transitional assistance, welfare, whatever you know it by, um, and that kind of became the man of the house. So when men came back from war, they were looking for a home, you know, love, care, and nurturing. And what they got was kicked out, because everybody knows, um, when you're on welfare, you have to um, turn in all the income, and you have to turn in everybody who's in the household and all that stuff, right? So for whatever reason or another, this was the breaking down of our family and our culture. Um, he went on to talk about how when you think about this on a grander scale, you begin to kind of understand, well, we had to do the women's rights fight, we had to do the protesting, we had to do the voting, we had to kind of immense ourselves in their culture, because we were now using their systems, their way of life. And it's kind of interesting when you think about it from that viewpoint. But I think it would be more important to have the conversations, or even go back and do the research to see what it what it is like to what was it like for women back then. What kind of patterns are we realigning with? I feel like COVID, and somehow, again, I'm saying it again, is a blessing in disguise. Now, I don't think that this means that we'll necessarily, as women, be going back to um, the cooking and the cleaning, but I've had several women of my clients tell me how, now that schools are closed, that, they have to work with their kids through the schooling program all day, and they also have to work. And they don't have, some people, not everybody, okay, this is not going to be everybody's story. I'm just giving you a focal point to look through, to think about this as you're manifesting for this new moon energy, okay? But this is definitely changing us somehow, because we have to go back. We're kind of being forced to wean us off of their system, their way of doing things. So it would be interesting to see what our culture was, what is coming back for us. Go do your research, find out who we were before we integrated with their culture, because we had a culture. And I think more than anything at this time is telling us, with all these retrograde planets, we have Neptune, who is a big heavy hitter in this, who's in retrograde. We have Jupiter, who's a big heavy hitter and is now in retrograde. We have Saturn, who is a big heavy hitter and is in retrograde. And they all are playing and have played a big part in these cycles that have changed us over time. So if they're in retrograde and it's asking us to go back and go within to find out who we are, this is why a lot of the black culture is saying, buy black, start your own businesses. And I know everybody's not meant to do this type of thing, but you have to find out who you are in this, and who you're going to support in this. And this is not a race fight. I need to make this very clear. This has nothing to do with race. This is about our culture. We are the only culture who doesn't have a system. Why? Why is that? If you think about it on a bigger scale, the reason that is because we are the largest consumers of America. We literally keep this place running. And I'm not saying that we're going to try to eliminate doing services with America in any kind of way. That's not what I'm saying. I don't think that we need to be focusing on that type of energy. That is a low vibrational energy. And your higher energy, what we should be asking for is the rights to have our own and be left alone, because everybody else does. You go to Chinatown, they have that. You go Jewish people, they have that. Any other culture that you go to, they have their own system. They have their own police officers, people who look like them, people who understand their culture. And all I'm saying is that we should want the same thing. I think Malcolm X, and you'll have to forgive me because I don't know the whole story. I don't have all the answers. I'm not coming on here trying to make it seem like I do. But I know for sure that before not Malcolm X, Dr. Martin Luther King died, the reason they killed him is because he began to realize, oh shit, I think I just led my people in the wrong direction. Because his whole march was for integration, for equal rights. But what we should have been fighting for is for what we already had, right? And for that to be left alone, right? So and there are a bunch of other people like Malcolm X and a few other people. I think Farrakhan talks about this too. And if you look at Farrakhan is a great example of what we would like to have: our own land, our own troops, our own police, our own, our own. Okay, without it being a threat to the American culture, because we really don't want that smoke. You know, we don't want that war. We are not prepared. Okay, we don't have the structure or the systems to do that. So what we really should be fighting for is our own within this American culture, right? How can we level, negotiate, have deeper conversations? There are no laws that need to be changed. The laws are what they are. All we want is our own within them, within the working culture, within the working system that is already in place. What we want is our own, like China and the Jews and every other culture that has that, because what we're what we're losing is our structure and ability to grow a structure, and those things that we had, right? So that's kind of my 2 cents on this, and it all coincides astrologically. I hope that you use this time to manifest that. Find out who you are in this, right? And work on building that part of yourself up. And on a global scale, I think hopefully we kind of come to this realization. um, yeah.